everyone, my name is Terri, and welcome to my channel, The Pink Dumbbell Problem, and a new episode in my new series called In the Discourse. Today, in the Discourse, we're going to be talking about Linda and leggings. Let's get into that right now. As you may have heard or seen by now, supermodel and fellow Canadian, Linda Evangelista is back in the news, and this time she is, as they say quite often in celebrity news, coming clean about the issues she's had recently with her body. Now, this has been deconstructed and discussed and discoursed all over the place, so I'm not going to go into a really big deep dive on that. This is supposed to be a quick video. As many people have rightfully pointed out, the things she's complaining about are ultimately being a woman over 50. I mean, really, most women, even under 50, have some of the complaints that she's experiencing for the first time. So on the one hand, it is important to be compassionate and understand that her life has not given her these experiences and these frames of reference for her body shape and size in the past, which has been normal to the rest of us normal humans who are not supermodels. Here's where the problem is with everything that the modeling and fashion and in general even advertising industries have done to the female form over the last several decades. It is, as people often say, the danger of a single narrative. When every supermodel, and back in her heyday in the 90s, they all looked like this. When they all look like the same body type and there's no diversity in there, diversity of body type that's missing leads people to think only one type of body type is normal. But you can see how somebody who has lived entirely in that world for the last 30 odd years has come to see what she's going through now as disturbing and abnormal. And at one point, and I'll put a link down below for the article from People, there's some video clips in it. At one point in the video, she says, like, I feel like this is a deformity. And I don't know if that's the right word to call it. This is all coming down ultimately to why representation matters. When there's only one type of thing shown, everything else becomes abnormal. And to the point where she's questioning if this is a deformity. And she is also trying to warn people that the cosmetic procedures she had done didn't work out as promised, and this is the result of them. So fair play to her that she's trying to warn other people about the dangers of this stuff. But this is somebody who's had an extremely privileged life, specifically because of her appearance. And it's a little hard to take, to be honest, to see her whining about feeling like she's deformed when really she's just going through the same physical changes that most people go through at her age. And it's a really, really whiny interview. Like, I could only listen to a little bit of it and I was like, oh my God, like, perspective, honey. But again, it does serve us all well to be compassionate and understand that this is a fresh new hell for her and she's never experienced anything like this before. Okay, and the other thing, leggings. Now, I have said many times, not so much on this channel, but in other areas of my work, I've been saying for well over a decade that yoga pants or yoga leggings are a feminist invention. What I mean by that is that they allow women access to physical activity that other types of clothing that have traditionally been used in physical activity don't allow for. So for anybody who's concerned about modesty, first and foremost, things like full coverage, not having to worry about shorts or a skirt flipping up and anything being seen, there's a lot of value, not to mention just plain old comfort, in wearing leggings or yoga pants. A very interesting thing has come up. Of course, it's an Olympic season, so what has come up in the news in the last couple of days is that finally, a competitive figure skater has worn full-length like pants or leggings in a competition at the Olympic level. Surprisingly, this is actually a really big deal. The rule has been apparently changed in the last several years that women don't have to wear tiny little skirts and leotards, but thus far, this is the first person to do it. Josefin Taljegard from Sweden is the first person to do this at this Olympics or any, from what I understand from the news articles, any competition at this level. Special shout out, by the way, to Amy Deal on Twitter, who's the first person I noticed who posted about this and did a little commentary on that. So I'll put a link down below. You can check out her work. This story is a great example of how just because a rule changes or a law changes or something like that, official changes, doesn't mean that the actual practice is going to change. The concern here, as in with a number of other sports that are based on experts judging the performance, the judgment of the women in the competition is going to be a lot harsher than it is of the men because there's an expectation that they look pretty or feminine. A friend who has done bodybuilding competitions mentioned that facial prettiness is a judgment criteria for the women, but not for the men. I've seen that in different documentaries about that sport as well. The women are judged on having a lot of muscle, but still looking feminine. That creates all kinds of trouble when we get into people literally being judged for how feminine they look. Something like that trickles out into other areas of society where women, be they cis women or trans women or non-binary, are judged by their level of femininity and judged whether they're a good woman or a not so good woman based on that level, where they meet that benchmark. Frankly, I don't think I've ever heard of a co-ed or a men's competition where the prettiness or the femininity or masculinity of the competitor is part of the criteria. Also, we have to look at why is it that skirts are considered so feminine. I mean, there are cultures around the world where skirts are worn by men as well as women. And in this day and age, having to wear a skirt to prove your femininity is kind of strange. Many workplaces required women to wear skirts up until fairly recently. So it's not that far back in the history of our society, as we might like to think it is, that we required women to identify themselves by wearing skirts and not allowing them to wear pants. And famously, France only revoked their law against women wearing pants in 2013. Not that they enforced it legally, not that anybody was ever charged with a crime for that in many, many decades past, but technically it was actually illegal. Again, great example of how just because something changes in the rules doesn't mean the social constructs and the social norms around that have changed. That's going to take a few generations to trickle out. So there you have it, folks. Short one this week. 2 little things going on in the discourse, in the news and on Twitter and things like that. Throw some comments down below. Let me know what your experience was with these things. And maybe if there's other things going on out there in social media land and in the news that you want me to cover. I will eventually do a Olympic wrap up like I did back in the summer and talk about what sort of gender things came up. There won't be as many for the Winter Olympics. There never is. But that's actually one of the things I'll talk about when I get to that vlog episode. And of course, please like and subscribe and comment and share and do all the YouTube stuff down there and click around a little bit in the links down there in the info box. You can support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can actually buy a shirt off of my Threadless store. And in fact, it's not just shirts, there's other stuff. There's notebooks and all kinds of cool stuff on there. So go check that out. And as always, lift heavy, fight the patriarchy, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.